viewers, welcome to my channel, Food Braggers Network. Yes, you heard it right, Food Braggers Network. Here, I and my friends make great meals and we brag about them. And I hope that you will join the Braggers Network and brag about what you see on our channels. And so today I'll be making for you chickpeas, or we also call it as garbanzo beans. Here I have 1 cup of chickpeas which I have soaked 1 to 4 hours. You could soak yours for as long as you want. I'm making just 1 cup, and so I had to soak it for less time. All I'm soaking it for is so it will become tender and then it will cook faster. If you do not soak it, then it takes longer time to cook. And I'm going to add to that my carrots, red onions. Here it is already finely chopped, and I do have here tomatoes. These are cherry tomatoes, as you can see. I already just washed them and I sliced them into halves so I can use it. Now, the spices that I'll be adding to this recipe, I do have here bay leaves. They came in a pack, but I took them out of the pack and I simply just store them in this plastic container and cover it up. It stays longer. I do have here peanut oil. You could try your recipes with different oils and see which one gives you the best flavor that you like. I like it with my peanut oil, and of course I do know some people have peanut allergy, so that will not be an option at all. So if that is you, please choose another one. I have here sea salt. I do have here oregano leaves, dried oregano leaves. You could use the fresh one as well. It gives us some kind of flavor and taste. Sometimes I combine both the fresh ingredients and the dry ingredients. But for this recipe, I do not have fresh ingredients at home, so I'm going to just stick with what I have at home, and that is the dried ingredients. So I'm using dried oregano leaves. I'm also going to use here dried rosemary leaves. And then of course, black pepper, and also minced garlic. You could also use fresh garlics if you have that at home and you still prefer that, but either way it works. So here I'll be using my minced garlic. I'll also be using chicken broth for this recipe. If you're a vegetarian and you do not eat meat, that is optional, but for extra flavor I like to season it up with chicken broth. So, having showed you my ingredients, let's go to my kitchen so you can see how that magic happens. Okay viewers, so here I have my already soaked garbanzo beans or chickpeas. So I'm simply going to rinse it out from the water that I had before. You can pour it into a sieve and rinse it. That makes it faster, but because I want us to see, I'm going to just simply rinse that out here and then put it into the pan. Or I have a pot here that is deep enough, because beans swells when you cook it, so you want to use a pot that is deep enough to be able to accommodate it when it swells. So what I'll do now is I'll simply cover it up completely with water. I'm going to, now this water, I'm going to empty this and then cover it up with fresh water. I pour in fresh water to cover the beans. You can see the beans or the chickpeas in the pot completely covered with water. So just so that it covers it up and then allows it to cook. I'm now going to turn on the heat at high and then allow it to cook on the stove at least for 30 minutes or until it's tender. I will be checking in every 10 minutes to make sure the water is not completely dry, so I do not burn the pot. And if the water dries without it being tender, I'll add more water to it gradually until it is soft enough for me to add my ingredients. Okay guys, my chickpeas has been cooking for the past 30 minutes. Remember, I made just 1 cup of fermented or soaked chickpeas. So I had checked it in 20 minutes, it wasn't ready, and the water had dried up, so I had added 1 cup of fresh water to it. and I had boiled it for another extra 10 minutes just to see how soft it is. So here I have my chickpeas, not really soft. So what I'm going to do now, I do not like it to really crumble. I still like it in whole pieces, but it's not as soft as I want it to be. So it still needs more liquid, if you remember. So I'm going to add my ingredients to it now because it's at least almost tender. It is tender. You can see I can crack it or break it if I do. So let's see here. So here is one here. If I touch it and press it, it divides into two. So at least it's tender enough for me to add my ingredients to. So I'm now going to start adding my ingredients. So first I pour in my diced tomatoes, my chunks of carrots, I just give it a stir. I'm going to throw in just one leaf, one bay leaf. So here's my bay leaf. I just cut it into 2 halves and I'm going to throw that in there. Then my onions, which I had also chopped, I'm going to throw that in there. I'm going to add my other seasonings. For this recipe, I'm using 1 tablespoon of garlic. I add approximately 1 tablespoon of my dried rosemary. Sprinkle it in there. So I have my oregano leaves there. I'm going to add also 1 tablespoon. I'm going to add approximately 1/4 teaspoon of my sea salt, and all this is to your taste. You could add more or you could add less depending on how you like your food salt and salted. Now I'm going to also add 1 tablespoon of my dry black pepper. You could add more if you like black pepper. I do like black pepper a lot, but I try not to allow the taste or the flavor to overpower other spices that I have in the meal. So then I'm going to stir that up, and I can show you what it looks like here. I'll stir that up. It's still on high heat. So now I'm going to add 2 cups of my chicken broth. This is homemade chicken broth. I'll stir that up. And what I'm going to do now, I'm going to reduce the heat from high a little bit to almost medium, and I'll allow these beans to cook for another 30 minutes. I'll keep checking it to make sure it does not burn. If the liquid completely dries out without the beans being as soft as I want it, then definitely I'm going to add just a little bit more water. And of course I'll test to see if my seasoning is just that way I want it. If it's not, please by all means add more seasoning as you so prefer. So here is the garbanzo beans. Once I have added all the ingredients into it, like I said, I'm going to put it now on medium heat and allow it to cook for another 30 minutes or until my garbanzo beans is completely tender enough to my own liking. If you do not like it really soft, then please check it, and when it reaches the level of tenderness that you like, then you can stop. But for me, I really like it to be really soft. So I'm going to cook it for another 30 minutes. And viewers, our chickpeas have been cooking now for additional of 30 minutes, making it 1 hour since we started processing this. So let's see if it is soft enough. It is tender enough for me. So you see it's not broken into pieces. I still have them whole in there. But now I'm going to add my final ingredient to it, which is going to be my peanut oil. Like I said, you could use any kind of oil of your choice. But I'm going to add peanut oil to this. I'm going to add half a cup of peanut oil. And then I'm going to further reduce the heat to low, from medium to low, and allow it to cook for another 10 minutes after I've added the oil before I turn off the stove. So, have a cup of peanut oil so I can add more flavor to that recipe. And I think I'm going to add just half a cup of water more because it's drying out so quickly. So I'm going to allow it to be, I like it to be a little bit fluffy. So I added half a cup of water. Half a cup of water more. I'm going to cover it up and leave it for another 10 minutes. And our chickpeas or garbanzo beans will be ready. We'll come back to plate it out and then test it. Guys, it's been 10 minutes. You can see our chickpeas is sizzling on the stove and it's ready.